I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Well, I've got 10 bits of insightful wisdom that I got by some wise guy. And the first one is, if you cannot repair your brakes, make your horn louder. It makes a lot of sense if you don't think about it. When everything is coming your way, you must be in the wrong lane. Everyone has a photographic memory. Some just don't have their thumb drive plugged in. And maybe you've noticed this one. I find this one once in a while. What is the function of your shins? They are a device for finding furniture in the dark. And experience is something you don't get until just after you need it. And this is true too. I think nobody's really listening until you make a mistake. Then it's like, oh, you made a mistake. Success always occurs in private and failure in full view. And the severity of the itch is in direct proportion to the difficulty of the reach. Ever notice? I know that's pretty deep. You have to think about that one. And a clear conscience is usually the sign of a bad memory. And the last one, if you had to choose between two evils, pick the one you never tried before. Drum roll, please. Well, this is a picture of my second grade class. I was teaching in Oakland, California, back in the late 1990s. And where we're standing is kind of on a hill that overlooks the playground. And it's a place where we teachers often stood because we could see the whole playground when the children were at recess. And one day at recess, all these kids were playing, and one kind of rambunctious child ran around the schoolyard and started kicking people, hitting people, taking their lunches, right? Jumping in the middle of their jump rope game and messing it up, and just creating havoc on the schoolyard. So I went over to the child and I said, okay, Johnny, you got to come sit with me on the hill. And so I brought him up to this hill, and we're sitting there, and he sat there for maybe 30 seconds. And then he just and took off running, right? And I'm like, what do I do? I got to watch all these kids that are on the playground. So I ran after him. He ran down in the hallway. So I ran, caught him, took him by the hand, brought him back, and set him down next to me on this hill. And the next morning, when I parked my car in the parking lot, his mother was standing in the parking place, and she just let me have it, saying that her son told her that I had hurt him, that I had chased him, that I squeezed his hand, and I threw him down on the ground, and I told all the other children in the schoolyard not to play with him. So I spent a lot of that day worrying. And I told her, well, why don't you go contact the principal and talk to her about it? And, you know, if you've ever known a teacher or been a teacher, there's this fear that we always have, or I have had, of being perceived as someone who would ever hurt a child, like I would ever hurt a child. And but in spite of that, I was with that fear most of the day. So what is spiritual wisdom? When it comes to really acquiring spiritual wisdom, The truth is that many people want it, but very few people ever are able to achieve it, to be successful with it. And there's very few people who really even know what spiritual wisdom is, how to access it, or how to use it. Wisdom is not the same thing as knowledge. Knowledge is about information, it's about facts, it's about truth, it's about principles. But the way that knowledge really becomes wisdom is when we can use that knowledge in a wise way. Wisdom, especially spiritual wisdom, is not just about knowing what's right and what's good for us, but it's about applying the principles that we know to our everyday life. And when we can do that, we are truly wise. So spiritual wisdom is the ability to recognize knowledge and apply it lovingly to our lives. So how can we acquire spiritual knowledge? There's a great story that I like in the Bible that speaks of King Solomon. And God came and talked to King Solomon. And God said, King Solomon, what do you want? And King Solomon said, I want wisdom. I want knowledge. And God was like, wow, this is rare, because most people ask God for what? Stuff, right? and God said, okay, wow, King Solomon, since you come to me and you, not like everybody else, asking for more stuff, you're wanting wisdom and knowledge, I'm going to give you wisdom and knowledge. And that wisdom and that knowledge is going to give you the ability to rule my kingdom. And by the way, you're going to receive all of that other stuff because you are living a wise and knowledgeable life. And so you're going to be prosperous. Don't you just love that? This story can teach us a lot. Webster's dictionary defines wisdom as knowledge and the capacity to make good use of it. The fact that Solomon asked for knowledge, it's like the Spirit just said, okay, you can have all of it because you ask for it. I love what George Bernard Shaw, playwright, once said, we are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility for the future. So we're looking at how can I apply the truths that I have available to me right now? How can I apply that to my life so that I can live an abundant and happy future? The Roman writer Seneca confirms this by saying, no man was ever wise by chance. Isn't that interesting? We get to be wise by choosing to be wise, by choosing to access this spiritual knowledge that we as spiritual beings having a human experience have all this access to, and to fully embrace it, we have to ask for it. Pursuing spiritual wisdom allows us to open our mind, our heart, connect with the Spirit, the essence of truth of who we are, the presence of God that's everywhere in the universe. So we have the ability to connect with that knowledge. So remember that the student's mom went to the principal, and a couple hours into the day, I got a note from the principal saying, please come to my office. We need to talk. And I was like, I had that note and I'm holding on to it, and it's like, what what can I learn about this? What does this mean? Is my job at risk? Or, who knows what's going on, what's going to happen? So I decided to eat my lunch in my room that day. Usually I ate with the rest of the faculty because it was fun. And this day I thought, I just have to be by myself. I need to reflect on this. So as I sat in my classroom, I just decided I need to relax because I was a nervous wreck. And so I brought my attention and my focus, as we know how to do, to my breath, and just really connected with myself and was able to allow myself to be present in that moment and to let all of that go. And then I asked myself, I asked the Spirit of God, what is it that I can know right now? And what I heard was, I'm a good person. I would never hurt a child. And I know that my behavior reflected that. In spite of the few doubts that I was having in that moment, I was able to connect with that and know that that was my truth. And to breathe into that and to know that this is who I am. And I asked myself, ask my spirit, ask the presence, what is it that I want to be right now? How do I want to be in the midst of the situation? And what I heard is, I want to be at peace. I want to be connected to the truth of who I am. I want to be centered. And as much as anything else, I want to be loving. And then I decided to apply our age-old technique of creating a what? Affirmation. Thank you. You get extra prayer points today. So I created an affirmation, and my affirmation was, spiritual wisdom guides my thoughts, words, and actions. I am peaceful, centered, and loving right now. And I said that over and over, and I breathed into it, and I felt it, and I knew that it was the truth of who I was. And, the best part of that was I was able to let all of this stuff go. I realized, and I knew that I was there to teach these children, these second grade children. And they were counting on me to be present to the fullest of my ability. They wanted the knowledge that I had. Their minds were desiring to learn from me. And I knew that I can't let my stuff get in the way of teaching them the ideas that I had to show them that day. And I was able to just totally let this go and stand in my truth. And a little while later, after the children left, this is a picture of Toller Heights, by the way, a school where I taught. And so after school was over, I decided to venture to the principal's office, which, going as an adult in this kind of a situation can put about as much fear in you as you had to go when you were in elementary school, right? And but because of the work that I had done, I was able to stand strong in the midst of it and to go in there with being centered, being loving, being present. And I walked in the principal's office, and the little boy was there, and his mom was there. And the principal said to the little boy, "Would you tell us what happened?" And the little boy said, "Well, I was at recess, and I was having fun, and I was playing with everybody. And all of a sudden, Mr. Tinsley got mad at me, And he chased me around, and he grabbed me by the hand, and he pulled me up on the hill, and he threw me on the ground, and he hurt my hand because he was grabbing it so hard. And wow. I just paused for a second, and I looked at him, and I said, "Is that really? What happened?" And his whole composure changed. The defensiveness left. The anger left. And he started to cry. And he said, "No, that's not what happened. He didn't hurt me. I was being bad, and I was causing trouble on the playground." And his mom said, "I'm sorry for this." And I said, I think this is a great opportunity for us all to learn something. I understand, Johnny, where you were coming from. And, I want you to know that I love you and I would never hurt you. So we all stood up and we hugged. And the mom and Johnny left, and the principal and I looked at each other and went, "Whew, wow." Wow. So how can we attain spiritual wisdom? And of course, there are many ways. But what I was able to do in this moment, and part of my regular practice in doing so, is when I have this feeling that something's up for me and I need to access this wisdom, is just to relax, to breathe, to be present in the moment, to cut myself some slack, and to let go of the concern, the worries. And the second part of that is, and this is what was demonstrated by Solomon, is that we have to ask. We have to have the intention to pursue spiritual wisdom. We have to set that intention in our mind and do so consciously. Especially when we're working with developing this spiritual muscle that we have to sometimes really put ourselves in that place and say, I want to be inspired. I want to know what the truth for me is in this situation. And just to open ourselves up to receive that. And to say sometimes, I'm willing and able to know the truth for me right now. What is that? And our spirit knows. Our presence knows. Our connection with God knows. And the second thing we can do is to contemplate on, reflect on, even meditate on, what is it that I want? What is it that I want to be right now? What does the presence of Spirit within me want me to bring to this situation? Oftentimes, it's peace, or joy, or wisdom, or being centered. And just ask ourselves, what is that I want? What is that this presence in here wants? And then to create an affirmation that affirms that which we desire. And I think the one that I created is pretty effective for most situations. Spiritual wisdom guides my thoughts, my words, and actions. I am peaceful, centered, and loving right now. Right now. You know, when we pray, when we meditate, we actually change the neural pathways in our brains, which is what affirmations are all about. We're creating new ways of thinking, new ways of being. We're creating a different consciousness, and that's really the power of this work. And then the fifth thing that we can do is to practice accessing this wisdom. And just to, on a daily basis, to ask, okay, what's going on with me right now? What am I feeling? What is the spiritual essence that I want to bring to this situation? Maybe it's being with friends. Maybe it's being with relatives. Maybe it's being in a difficult situation, just to call upon that wisdom. We all have it. It doesn't get used much. You know, it's really a great time to use it when something pushes your button. Anybody ever have something push their button? Right? And if you can stop and say, okay, whoa, interesting. My button's just been pushed. Isn't that interesting? And just stop right there and say, what is it Spirit in me wants me to be? Probably not that person that's about ready to throw the rock or throw the insult or throw the jab, right? How can I be right now in a peaceful, loving way? And then even just to summarize it and say, you know what? I am peaceful right now. And I'm sharing, that's who I am right now. I'm loving right now. Oprah Winfrey advises people to trust their inner guidance. She says, because that's where true wisdom manifests itself. That inner guidance that we all have. And what's so neat about this is the more we practice it, the stronger our spiritual muscles get, and we can begin to apply it all the time. Wayne Dyer wrote, if prayer is you talking to God, then intuition is God talking to you. And of course, the interesting perspective about that is that God talking to you, to me, isn't some God on a cloud out there, isn't some being that has power over you. It's the essence of life that is the truth of who you are, that is always there, always loving, is never gone, and it's always accessible. But we have to turn to it. There's so the next day at Toller Heights, after school was over that day, the mom came to my classroom. And she said, can we talk? Yeah. And she said, I just want to share some things that are going on in my life with you and some challenges that I have. And will you just listen? And we talked. She shared. I tried to give her some loving perspectives on ways to look at what was challenging her in her life. And this woman started coming into my classroom at least once a week to spend time with me, to talk about spirituality. Wow. There's a Zen proverb that I like that says, to follow the path, look to the master. Follow the master. Walk with the master. See through the master. Become the master. Because that's who we are. We are the master, the presence of God within ourselves. The thing that is there to inspire us, to be our essence, to bring love and light wherever we are. You are the master. I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath, breathing into this moment. And I invite you to connect with your inner self, to connect with this place of love within you, to let all the other words and the other voices go. Maybe some of your committee members inside your mind that are saying, no, this is crazy. But just connect with your heart. Connect with this love. Connect with the truth of who you are. And imagine that you can bring your awareness down into your heart. And feel that presence. Imagine that you can allow this energy of love to fill your beingness. And breathe into that knowingness. Breathe into that knowingness that knows that you have access to the highest wisdom. You have access to the truth. You have access to the pureness of love. Because you are the pureness of love. So bringing your attention to your breath, breathing in, breathing out. And let's take just a few moments to rest in this quiet, loving place. And let's do that in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Slowly begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. Holding on to truth, love, peace, presence. And I invite you to begin to open your eyes. And to see the world through the eyes of love. And to know that this divine wisdom, this truth, this essence, this love is in you. It's in every one of us. And Virgie's going to sing, it's in every one of us to remind us of this truth. So at this time, I invite you to prepare your love offerings and your donations and your investments in Unity on Maui. And as you do so, to reflect on perhaps what is it that that your spirit, your heart desires to share in the world? What is it that is calling you, is pulling you forward to be? And I know and I believe that as we give with an intention of expressing our fullness in the world, that it opens our mind, our hearts, and our spirit to receive that which we desire. So, as we hold our gifts, let's pray and affirm together our prayer and affirmation for prosperity, which begins: through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is.
We saw Alan yesterday at the hospital. And Alan and I sang for him in the two of the songs that we sang were I Release and I Let Go and Aloha Oi, and he got tearful, Al got tearful, and it was really beautiful to be there with him. And he said, of course, more love, more better.
So let's say that with him together. More love, more better. So Al and Virgie have brought these lovely flowers today in recognition and appreciation for Alan Reed. So thank you. And if you'd like to bring flowers on Sunday, there's a sign-up list back on the back table. And if you'll pick a date, write your name, who you'd like it dedicated to, the flowers dedicated to, you can bring them on Sunday, and then you can take them home with you after the service. So thank you for doing that. And also, we're about ready to kick off our 5-step prayer class. The dates have changed from what I told you about last week. Christine Warner is going to be teaching this class 4 Sundays from 12 until 1:30 p.m. November 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th, all 4 Sundays in November. And we're asking $50 for the class, and it is there are partial scholarships available. So if you'd like to have one of those, remind me and tell me that. And you're pointing to Al because I forgot to pray. Oh, okay. And you know how Al is. He's going to stand there because usually I pray at this time over the offering, and Al being just the steadfast principle of love and pay attention, Rev. He's going to stand there until I acknowledge him, until I pray for the gifts. And he's the treasurer, right? So this is important to him, Al, and I'm really happy that you're standing up for your principles. And he's like, okay, Rev, just get it over with, will you? So thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them, we give thanks for them, knowing that they're moving through this community out into the world. And we behold a world that's filled with love, with light, with joy, and with peace. And so it is. Now you can take a sigh of relief. Okay. All right. So anyway, if you're interested in coming to the class, let me know. We're going to have a great time. And as anyone who's taken the class from Christine before, what a delight she is, and this will be a really fun and inspirational class. So, also, we have a woman's clothing swap or exchange coming up on November the 13th at 1:30, so it'll be after the prayer class. And if you're interested in being a part of that, you can contact Maya, and her phone number is there, and I've also got it here if you want it. And Linda Parker, of course, continues our Course in Miracles class on Mondays from 4 to 5:30 right here in the sanctuary. And I understand the class is very inspirational and people are having a lot of fun. So come along, just drop in. And Mike Fleenor is sort of our social director instigator at this time, and he's doing something he's called Get Found. It was Get Lost at first, but then we found that people never came back. They went on these hikes and we never saw them again. So, and we're still looking for them, by the way. So there is a hike to La Perouse happening on, what is the date, 28th? 29th. Let him know by the 28th. The hike is on the 29th. You can meet here and take our shuttle down to La Perouse. Great hike. It is not real difficult, but it's tricky on the feet. So I would advise certainly not flip-flops. Sturdy sandals or tennis shoes or boots are probably the best thing for this hike. It's an amazingly beautiful hike. And we're continuing our Thursday meditation right here at noon. We read the daily word and spend 30 minutes in the silence. Some time ago, I used to work at Silent Unity, and I worked there for 2 years when I was in ministerial school. And I worked on the prayer line, and I would pray about 60 prayers every 8.5-hour shift. And one time someone called me up and they said, I said, "Hi, this is Silent Unity. How may we pray with you?" And the person said, "Heal me ASAP." And I prayed with the person, but I thought, wow, that'll make a great talk. So next week, I've created an acronym for the letters ASAP, and it's really a revolutionary way to pray, and it's not that way. Not that way. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. That'll be next week right here at 10 o'clock. So join us then, and if you enjoyed today's talk, there is a Walk Your Talk in the back, which is a summary of everything that I've talked about. Marlene's holding it up. It's on green paper, not white. And that's in the back. Take that. And when your family and friends are wanting to know what we talked about today, you can share it with them, and also to help you remember how to put these principles into practice. All right. And I think that's about it. So why don't we stand? Take a deep breath, and we'll end our service as we always do by praying the prayer for protection, and then we'll sing the peace song afterwards. So take a deep breath, and let's affirm together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, friends. Thank you for being here. See you next week. Mahalo and aloha.
Where I live, there are rain.